What's up, everybody? It's your boy Al. Okay, so let's talk about this Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. First of all, Netflix, horrible job. Thank goodness my cable, I was allowed to watch it, able to watch it on my cable. Um, that was crazy. They need to know next time. They need to know what they're getting into. So that was crazy. Um, the fight itself, there are a lot of people who have dealt a lot of different takes, outlooks on the fight. There are a lot of people who believe a lot of different things. There are a lot of people who believe that it was fixed. There are a lot of people who believe that Mike was just old. There are a lot of people that believe that Jake Paul has just gotten um, that much better. Um, what I believe is that it was a combination of Jake Paul getting a little better and Mike Tyson looking more like 60 than we thought he would. I see a lot of people claiming that the fight was fixed, and what they're predicating the fight being fixed on is a lot of what they see were opportunities where Mike had to clock Jake Paul and he didn't. And I find it mind numbing, actually, that people don't understand how this works. First of all, the man, again, is close to 60 years old. He's 58 years old. And a lot of people were upset because they saw these highlight clips of him in training, hitting the bag, hitting the pads, and all this kind of stuff. And then he gets out there and he doesn't look anything like that. Well, as a former fighter, one of the things I can say is the relaxation that you carry in training when you're hitting the pads, the bag, or what have you, is not the same as the anxiety that comes upon you when you're actually in the ring. And yes, even somebody like Mike Tyson has anxiety when he gets into the ring. Everybody gets a little nervous in one way or another when they get into the actual ring. So when you're looking at a relaxed Mike Tyson work the pads and Mike Tyson in action, it's totally different. Um, I do believe that there was something wrong with his leg, and Roy alluded to it. He didn't like the way his legs looked. He wasn't able to really move forward. Even coming down or walking to the ring, you saw him stumble a little bit, trip on something coming to the ring. And I don't know, again, as a person who's fought before, I don't know if the nervousness just got to Mike, the jitters just got to him, because he's not the same Mike anymore. He's 58 years old. He's a father, I think even a grandfather maybe. So he's not the same guy that he was. So a lot of people are having a hard time wrapping their minds around that. A lot of people are thinking the fight was fixed because of, again, the fact that Mike couldn't pull the trigger. And what's comical to me is that the way people are trying to prove that is not just by the highlights of the clips of him in training, which again, we've already explained that it's easier as a person who's been in there. The choreography of the pads, knowing that that person who's working the pads is going to pop you back, gives you a lower level of anxiety and more of a relaxation than you are when you're in the ring with somebody who actually can and will hurt you. But a lot of people, I find it interesting that a lot of people were trying to prove what Mike should have and would have done if the fight wasn't fixed based on 30, 35-year-old footage. I've seen several people post videos of him fighting at 20, 21, 22 years old saying, see, this is the real Mike. This is what Mike would have done. See how when Jake right there throws it and he doesn't, let me show you what he would have done. People, stop trying to prove what a 58-year-old Mike Tyson would have been able to do or should have been able to do based on video footage of what a 20, 21, or 22-year-old Mike Tyson was able to do. You know what this speaks to? This speaks to what I say all the time about people when it comes to Mike Tyson. People can't get Mike Tyson out of their head. People can't grow up when it comes to Mike Tyson. I say all the time when we're having discussions, I've been on several platforms and podcasts when we're discussing who would be greater in their prime, who would win in their prime, Muhammad Ali versus Mike Tyson. And the responses that I get about what Mike Tyson was are very childhood-like answers. He was a beast. He was a killer. He was a machine. And when you start breaking down data and facts, they can't get to the data and the facts because of what they see him as, this killer machine. And what we see in the aftermath of Tyson versus Paul are a lot of people that are still caught up, struggling to let go of their childhood visions of Mike Tyson and what he is. When you have to go to a video clip of him when you were 12 and you're 40, you got a problem understanding how reality works. I've said this for years. People they have a hard time grasping and getting a reality, because Mike Tyson was such a polarizing figure when he was young. He was such a polarizing figure in his prime. A lot of us were just so taken by him in his prime that a lot of people can't ever envision him outside of that, and always hold hope that or some part of that is still left in him. But when we saw that it wasn't, some of us immediately refused to acknowledge that it wasn't, and immediately went to the conspiracy theories and the videos of him not being able to punch, or him in a fight with Michael Spinks, how he let the right hand go against Spinks, but when against Paul, like that was 30 years ago, he was able to do that. He was able to let his hands go because he was so much younger. How are you going to think that a guy 58 can still do what he did when he was 21? It just speaks to people's inability to grow up when it comes to not just Mike Tyson, but their heroes, their sports heroes. So many people were clamoring, hoping to get a revisit to their childhood and see Mike Tyson just demolish Jake Paul. And what they saw was an old man, and they just refused to swallow what they saw. They refuse to swallow what they saw because they don't, number one, they don't want to let go of their childhoods. They don't want to let go of who Mike Tyson was. They want to still believe that Mike Tyson is who he was. But at 58 years old, folks, he's not the same. And another reason why people are having a hard time believing that what they saw was real and that it wasn't fixed is because to say that it wasn't fixed would have to cause you to admit that Mike Tyson's getting old. And not only would that cause you to have to admit that Mike Tyson's getting old, it will cause you to have to admit that you're getting old. And that's part of the problem. People don't want to see Mike Tyson as getting old because they don't want to see themselves as getting old. His contemporaries, people who are his age, people who were raised on him. We want to see Mike Tyson go in there against a young whippersnapper and whoop his butt like he used to, because we want to believe that we can get out in whatever respective sport we used to be good at and whoop young whippersnappers just like we thought he would do. And he can't, and you can't. And that's part of the problem. We want to believe he can do it because we want to believe we can do it. No, he can't do it, and you can't either. Get out there with those young kids and get whooped all you want, thinking that you can do it because you still got it. No. We all are getting old. Acknowledge it. Accept it. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge that he's getting old. We've been so fooled by people talking about 30 is a new 40 and 40 is a new 40 is a new 30 and 50 is a new 40 and 30 is a new 20. We're in such a society that tries to not acknowledge getting older, that when we see it happen, we just refuse to swallow it. We just refuse to acknowledge that we just saw somebody who we remember in our prime getting old, and is no longer able to do it, and we just refuse to acknowledge it because we've been told that age ain't nothing but a number, and 30 is the new 20, and 40 is the new 30, and all this and all of that. And it's just not the case, baby. You are getting old, bro. You are getting old. He's getting old, and you are getting old too. That's the reality of it. Stop trying to prove what he should have been able to do based on a fight he fought 32 years ago. Stop putting up 28, 29-year-old fight footage of him letting his hands go, saying, see, that's what the real Mike. No, that's what the young Mike could do. He's getting old. You are too. And just to explain to people as a former fighter the way this works. And, we ought to understand the way this works, because we saw a few years ago an old Evander Holyfield who was not quite 58 get in there and couldn't even stand up. The guy he was fighting against wasn't even really hitting him, and he just kept falling over because he just couldn't even maintain his balance, because the anxiety that comes with boxing just if you aren't to put together, it just takes you apart. It just takes you down. You're stumbling, you're staggering, you can't get your bearings about you. You're worried about what the guy's going to do to you. It's just a different sport. But one of the things that I saw was a guy who, and we've seen this, and not just in boxing but other sports, a guy who couldn't pull the trigger anymore. I've seen fighters who were great fighters, and they talk about in boxing how a guy just gets old overnight. Like sometimes in boxing, you could be on top, and then there's a fight you have where it looks like you just got old overnight. And I've seen people that happen to people where they're one of the top 10 pound fighters in the world, and they get in there one night and everything is just gone or just diminished. And they interview these fighters after the fight, and the Jim Lampley or whoever it is, whether you watch HBO Showtime, they interview these fighters and they ask me, what was wrong? What was going wrong in that? And you would hear them say something like, I saw the openings, but I just couldn't pull the trigger. I saw what I needed to do, but I just couldn't let my hands go. I saw the opening, but something was just holding me back. What's holding you back is the age that a fighter hits sometimes when it's gone is not detectable by that fighter. You get in there one night and boom, you see openings where you would have where that jab would have shot out, you would have shot an overhand right over the top of it, and you get in there one night and you see the opening, and your body is just not, your body and your brain are just not in sync like they were. And people who say, "Well, Mike, look at this combination from 1987 when the fighter threw a left and he slipped and countered." Come on, man. Like, you can't pull up 30-year-old fight footage trying to prove what Mike should have done against Jake Paul. And again, like Roy said, his legs looked bad from the outset. He couldn't really go forward. He couldn't really press. He couldn't really push forward. He threw that one hard jab people say he threw, and it looked like after he hit Jake with that jab, he pulled back and stuck to the script. No, what happened was that anxiety made him tired. It made him super tired. I've been in there when I'm sparring with the world champion or Thomas Tate or Pernell Whitaker, and the anxiety of being in there with somebody that great. Usually when I would be sparring somebody my own age and I could go 6 or 7 rounds and not get tired, and I'd get in there with one of those greats and that anxiety just go through the roof. And next thing I know, within 2 minutes of the second round, I am gasping for air because the anxiety is just taking all of my energy. And I believe for a man who's 58, who still wants to believe he has it, but still has doubts about himself, I believe that the anxiety of that moment just got to him. I believe that he got in there, his mind was saying one thing, but when he got in there, his body quickly showed him something else. And he adjusted. He adjusted down. He went out there, he tried to do what he could do for a minute, but when his body and his mind spoke to one another, it was not the same. His mind was saying this, but his body didn't agree. And that happens to great athletes all around. I've seen quarterbacks. One night they get out there on the field, or one season they get out there on the field. Usually they throw that ball and catch that receiver coming across the middle, but for whatever reason, they can't pull the trigger no more. It happens to everybody. So for everybody who's talking about Tyson through the fight, Tyson was just out there to get paid. He's an old man. He's an old man. You got to get over it. He's an old man. We're all getting older. As far as Jake Paul is concerned, people need to understand this. As long as you keep giving him attention, he will get paid. Fighters out there, I see after the fight, Gervonta Tank Davis has something to say. That's the reason why he keeps getting paid, because people keep giving him attention. So as long as people give him attention, he'll get paid. As long as you want to see him lose, you keep paying your money to see him lose, just like so many people are mad at Floyd Mayweather because they paid all that money, fight after fight after fight, to see him lose and never did, and now they hate his guts. It's going to be the same with Jake Paul. For whatever reason, and this is going to make him even more hated and make people really want to see him lose, and it's just going to make him laugh, or put him in a situation where he laughs all the way to the bank. So that's my take on it. I think Mike was just old. I think he was shot. I think he's 58 years old. Mike wasn't looking that good when he was in his mid-30s on his way out, when he was, past his prime, getting stopped. And I mean, so at 58, I don't know what people expected. Holla at your boy Al. There's some more stuff I got coming. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. If you feel like I feel, then let me know. If you strongly disagree, tell me why you disagree and make your point. Don't just be all emotional. Tell me why you disagree, why you think Mike threw the fight. It's your boy Al. Peace.